Hello and welcome everyone to another Study in the UK Ask Us Anything Live. We're live on YouTube and Facebook today. My name is Mariana. I'm your head of advisors and I'm here with my fantastic colleague, Lily. Do you want to introduce yourself?
My name is Lily. I'm from Salt Lake City, Utah. I've been working with OK students since January. And I myself was a student in the UK. I did my undergrad and my master's, which I've just finished, both in the UK. I'm really excited to see what kind of questions we might get today.
That's perfect. We're going to go into Lily's experience as an undergrad and as a postgraduate in the UK. So guys, if you have any questions about the student experience in the UK and especially the American student experience, don't forget to comment and ask all of your questions below. And if you want to come and study in the UK, you know what I'm going to say. Contact us at info@okstudent.co.uk or send us your details through okstudent.com/book a meeting. So Lily, I wanted to start off by asking you, you went and studied in the UK as an undergraduate, right? How did that journey happen for you?
Well, I kind of stumbled into the whole process of it. So as many other Americans know, we use a website called the Common App, which is where we kind of, will fill out various applications at one time for university or college, whatever word you want to use. And I had wanted to study international relations. And so I typed in international into the Common App and this university popped up, which was called Richmond International University. And I just kind of decided to apply on a whim. And then I got this big scholarship and it ended up being the cheaper option. And I just kind of thought, well, okay, why not? So yeah, it wasn't really premeditated. I didn't really kind of have this idea of studying in the UK. But then once I kind of, put my mind to it, I thought, wow, that sounds pretty great.
Sounds awesome.
Yeah, it was the best decision that I've made so far.
Wait, you were 18, right, when you did that?
I was 19, yeah.
How did your parents react to that?
Well, I had done some studying abroad before. So when I was 16, I studied for about 7 months in Brazil. So in a really, really small city in the most southern state of Brazil. And I did one semester of my junior year of high school. So I think they had kind of already been through the works with that. So they just kind of, it was expected, I guess. So
that's great. So they were really supportive, I'm assuming.
Yeah, they were. Yeah.
That's great. So, and for you, it must have been a really interesting experience as well, because if you went to Brazil at 16, I'm assuming you didn't really feel a lot of cultural differences or cultural shock when you came to the UK, right?
No, that's a really good point. And that was kind of one of the things that I noticed compared to some of my American friends who were also studying with me, who maybe hadn't really been out of the country or who hadn't studied abroad. I was more kind of intrigued and interested and sort of, I found the little differences maybe entertaining and interesting, whereas for some of them it was maybe a bit more difficult. Not all of them, of course, because a lot of the differences are quite minor in the grand scheme of things, but I think, because I'd had that initial kind of cultural shock and blow into a country with a very different culture and a different language and one that I did not speak, coming to the UK where, we speak English, there's a different accent and certain words and phrases and whatnot, but it wasn't, this big kind of overwhelming, what's going on. That did.
Exactly, because in Brazil as well, we were talking about this before the live, and not a lot of people spoke English where you were, right?
No, very few. My host family did not. I don't think anybody. There was 1 or 2 people in my classroom that had pretty good English, but other than that, no.
That must have been a really, really interesting experience for a 16-year-old. I mean, just to throw yourself to Brazil like that without knowing. I'm assuming you didn't know Portuguese at the time either.
No, no. I mean, looking back, I don't really know what I was thinking. I don't know what I was expecting was going to happen. But I think that was kind of the excitement. That was just, there's no way of knowing. I didn't know what it looked like, the area I was going. I knew practically nothing about it. But when you just kind of fully throw yourself into these situations, then you kind of see how you react and you get to know yourself in all these ways that you wouldn't normally have, be able to. So yes, it was very overwhelming, very scary, very exciting. I loved I've gone back twice since to live, so I clearly liked it. I love it, but yeah, it was fun.
Good experience then, and it ended up like just making it so much easier for you to come to the UK to study your undergraduate and your postgraduate. And I wanted to ask you, like, because you were saying that you didn't really feel the cultural shock, but there were some small differences that you noticed. Like, do you want to talk about some of those differences?
Yeah, sure. I mean, it's kind of tricky because I always find kind of a similar thing when people would ask me like, oh, what's the US like? And it's like, well, it's this giant country with all these different cultures, all these different, cities and this and that. And, the same, of course, is for the UK. And I had a very specific experience, which was in London and Bristol, which are two kind of places that you have this very kind of specific, cultural mix. But I mean, some just things as simple as like, language used and words used to describe things. Like, I thought it was really sweet how objects live places. Like, oh, this passport lives on this shelf. Like, we would never say that. It's like, oh, the passport's just on the shelf. I mean, it's a really small example, but there's just moments like that where I'm just like, you guys are so sweet. And it's just, and then there's also all these really kind of frustrating, annoying little differences that you feel like, it must be kind of intentional. Like the colors of the milks are different and the colors of the bins are different. And like, it's almost like we are different. Like somebody did this intentionally. Cause it's subtle, but it's also not so subtle. But yeah, I mean, and I think, one thing that isn't true is that British people are unfriendly. I've was kind of scared going into moving to the UK. I thought, oh, they're all going to hate me because I'm this, loud American and, they don't really like that. But I have never, ever, ever once encountered anybody who's been rude to me because of where I've come from. British people are very, very friendly and polite. It's just in a different way. Their friendliness is a bit more polite than what you would find in the US because we're just a bit more blunt and kind of, anything goes. But it's still friendly and it's still very comfortable. They're all always been very excited and interested to talk to people from, the US and other countries. I've had, a great experience. I was very scared. I remember I was embarrassed of my American accent and I just thought people weren't going to like me, but it's never, ever been an issue.
So for all American students hearing us right now, British people are friendly, we promise.
Yes.
Especially up north. I think that people up north are always a bit like warmer than Southern folk because it's not a politeness thing. It's about the warmness as well of people. I feel that the times I've been in the US, everyone's super warm. They're super welcoming. And it's such an outside thing that an inside thing that they express out, and it's super interesting. Whereas in the UK, they're much more reserved, and politeness is really so much of a thing. So don't forget, guys, everyone's really polite, and you don't need to be afraid of somebody being rude to you because of your accent.
Yes, moral of the story.
I think speaking of American students, what do you think are the main benefits for you as an American student having come to study in the UK?
That's a great question. So I think, first and foremost, if we want to talk about the pricing, because I kind of mentioned it being one of the cheaper options, which was part of why I chose to come to the UK. But for students who are looking to study at a private university or who want to go out of state, we all know that the tuition just spikes up very insanely. So for those students, it is cheaper to go to the UK. I mean, it's not the same as in-state tuition, but you will be finding a significantly less money that you'll have to spend. And also the undergraduate courses are 3 years as opposed to 4. So that's 1 less year that you'll be having to pay for. And the master's degrees are 1 year. So you can really get 2 degrees in the same span that you would be able to get 1 degree in the US, which is what I did and what many of my American friends have done. I specifically looking at what I studied, which was international relations, it was so good to kind of get out of this US rhetoric and kind of, into this kind of different environment. And And I don't think that that's exclusive to international relations. I think that can benefit studies in, you know, many other ways, just to kind of push yourself into this new environment, this new mode of studying. Have those new experiences that accompany your studying can really kind of enhance it. And then I think that you can stand out in the US having a UK education, especially because so many of the universities are, you know, way up there. They're, you know, internationally recognized as these wonderful institutions. They have history. And there's a lot of variety. I mean, yeah, I could keep going, but I think those are probably the main ones.
Yeah, definitely. I fully agree. I think you mentioned the main things there, which is the cost of tuition ends up being cheaper in some situations. The fact that students can really just save a lot of time while doing these degrees, and also the fact that they can expand their horizons quite a lot, I think is such a good thing to bring up. And to complete your last point, is just the UK has the 4 top universities in the world out of the 10 best universities. So it's really such a good place to study for everyone that, yeah, it would be really interesting to have more American students come into the UK to study. I think it's kind of like rare, maybe, that you guys come to study abroad. Is this right?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. For my personal experience, I found that anytime I told anybody in the US, like, oh, I'm studying in the UK, and they would say, oh, like for a semester, you're studying abroad. And I'd say, no, I'm doing my full degree. And a lot of people were like, I didn't know you could do that. I think it's something that's really, you know, we're not really aware that you can go out of the US just because we have such a strong, you know, kind of U.S. college culture, which is, you know, we have great universities, of course, but it isn't really something that we see as an option, kind of just, you know, and then also, like you mentioned, study abroad. That is, you know, very prevalent and common in the U.S. kind of college experience. To, if you want to go study and, you know, study in a different country, you'll do it for a semester or a year. We typically don't pursue the full degree. So I think, you know, if more people knew that it was an option and that it's not that difficult and that it's really fun and, you know, it's really rewarding, there would be a lot more of us, will be a lot more of us going over.
Exactly, and especially when students travel so much out of state for universities, which ends up being kind of the same thing as moving to a different country. So it's kind of an analogous experience there that happens, but happens in country.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, I think that there's a lot of benefits for American students. And, you know, because we do have this kind of, you know, longstanding relationship with the US, the UK, we share a lot of, you know, media, a lot of, you know, common ground and whatnot. So it's a nice link.
Did you think, like, because I know that my entire youth has been permeated by like this idea of the American college and the American university and the Greek system and all of this sort of thing. And when I went and studied in the UK, that's kind of what I expected, to be fair. It was like whole sort of situation. Did you feel like when you went to the UK that you were expecting to find something like Hogwarts?
So it's kind of funny because so my undergraduate university, it was an American university. It did have certain components of that American university experience, but it was also in a building that did look like Hogwarts. So like this beautiful,
best of both worlds.
Yeah. I mean, I was never really that drawn to the kind of, you know, joining a sorority or, you know, all that kind of, that kind of college experience, I guess. But there was, you know, we didn't have fraternity sororities, but there was, you know, some Americans playing beer pong every so often in different places, which is fine. It was fun. But yeah, I think I did. I mean, I saw a picture of the university that I, you know, decided to go to, and I was like, whoa, that's nice. But yeah, I think I definitely did have this idea of, you know, a Hogwarts influence, I guess. We'll leave it at that.
Perfect. All right, guys, don't forget, you can always comment below any questions you might have about studying in the UK. My name is Mariana. You're watching the Study in the UK. Ask us anything. And I'm here with my fantastic colleague, Lily. Lily is a student advisor, and she's working for all of our American students that want to come to the UK and study. So guys, if you want to come to the UK and study, don't forget you can send us an email at info@okstudent.co.uk or send us your details through okstudent.com/book a meeting. So Lily, to continue, like, I'm really interested in your undergraduate versus postgraduate experience as well, because those are quite different universities, right? Like Richmond, which is a US university that has a campus in the UK, is that right? And then Bristol, who's like a really good top UK university. So how was that, and how would you compare these two experiences?
Yeah, so they were, like you said, very different. My first university, Richmond, I think there's probably around 2,500 students. It's very small. It's kind of like a split UK-US system. So, you know, we get, in the way that it's American is that it's liberal arts. So we get to kind of pick and choose from different modules more so than you would be able to. And there's certain, you know, there's like a foundational year that was required. But I felt like you know, obviously with it being in the UK, I did still have this kind of UK uni experience. And then Bristol, like you mentioned, is a very big, well-known, it's a great university. So my undergraduate experience, I probably liked it a bit more. Obviously, that, you know, they're set up very differently. Master's degrees, it was 1 year, it was research-based, so you're not really getting as much contact time. Whereas my undergrad, I kind of had the same professors year after year. I had a lot of support. I, you know, was really close with my professors, and I really, you know, they knew me very well. They knew my opinions, my outlook on things, and I knew theirs. And it made for a really engaging kind of classroom environment, which for me and for other Americans, because we're taught to speak in the classroom setting, was really great, because that's what I was used to. And it, you know, that's what helps me learn, is just kind of like vomiting all my ideas out and then sifting through it. And when you get those smaller classrooms, that's definitely encouraged, and it's definitely supported. And so I really flourished in that environment. My master's, I did really enjoy it. But it was, you know, very large classroom sizes. You didn't really get to know your professors as much, just because, especially when it's 1 year, I mean, you don't really, I mean, you can, I mean, you know, but okay, this is just my experience.
I can imagine you had much less time as well in Bristol than you did in Richmond.
And also COVID happened. There was a lot of strikes which were going on, which I supported, but that meant that the professors weren't in the classroom for, I think, probably 6 weeks of the year. I'm not sure. But really, I have to, you know, emphasize again the nature of at least my master's degree, because it was research-based. You inevitably will have less support. They say you're taught your undergrad, you write your you read your master's and you write your PhD. So it was a lot of independent work. And I think to support the smaller universities in the UK, which I would like to do, not that there's anything wrong with the bigger ones, but from what I found and kind of from what I've heard from some of my other friends, I have a handful of friends who've done, you know, a smaller university degree, and then they've gone to kind of a bigger one, or they started off at a bigger one that's maybe a bit more well-known. And they do usually have a better experience at the kind of, you know, lesser known, maybe not as high ranked universities, because they tend to be focused more on the student experience, because they really do want to, you know, improve their rankings or kind of create the best learning environment that they can. And if they already have a you know, a high reputation, there's maybe not as much of an emphasis on sort of, you know, investing in that area.
Yeah, I can imagine that if a university has less students as well, they have more staff to dedicate to each of those students.
Exactly.
Yeah. So it might be adequate for a certain type of student who's an undergraduate student, especially students that are really focused on getting maybe a proper or the right academic environment for them.
Yes. Yeah. And I just think that, you know, that's not to say that, you know, the University of Bristol, for example, is not a good university. It's a fantastic university, and I did have a great experience. It's just, I think for me personally, I did enjoy the smaller, kind of more supportive environment.
I think that's really relevant. And there's one thing I want to add here is that's exactly why we often say to students, and most of our all of our consultancy processes are made on the basis of the right university for the right profile of student, the right location, the right course. It's because, yeah, rankings matter a lot, but what about the student experience? What about how that student's going to be feeling? And what about their results in regards to that? Because that's going to impact your results.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. And it's just, I think, you know, I mean, I didn't know any of this going into my, really probably either of my degrees. I knew more going into my master's than I did my undergrad. But I mean, I don't think I really took all of the kind of important components into play. There's just so many little things that you do need to think about, and that you only realize after, you know, either your 1 week, 6 months, or after you finish your degree, like, I should have thought of that. And, you know, so I think it's having people to support you along the way, and who know from experience, from observation, all these little things that do matter a lot. It's, you know, it really does help find the perfect kind of the perfect spot.
Exactly. I fully agree. And I'm the first one to say that I went to the UK on my own. I'm assuming you went as well, Lily. But I think definitely I could have benefited from somebody telling me exactly what my university was like, what sort of subjects they were more supportive in, or they were better ranked in. And especially when I got to the UK, there was a lot of things I had to do that I wasn't really prepared to do. So things like opening a bank account, like finding accommodation, all of these sorts of things that were really difficult for me to do as an 18-year-old just leaving my mom's house.
Of course. Yeah. No, I mean, I think, you know, and as 18-year-olds, you know, this is similar to me looking back to when I was 16 and I decided to move to Brazil. Did I know what I was getting into? No. Did I really know what I was getting into when I went to the UK? Also, no. But you don't really think about those things, you know, because why would you? It's like, this is the fun, exciting thing. Like, it'll sort itself out later. If you're like me, and I'm very much the kind of like, I'm just going to go and do it and see what happens. But it would have been helpful if I'd had a bit more, you know, kind of a little bit of support along the way to shimmy me through.
Guys, we're that person for you. If you just want to think about the fun parts of going to study abroad, we're definitely the person for you. Contact OK Student, send us a little email through info@okstudent.co.uk, or send us your details through okstudent.com/book a meeting, so that we can make sure that everything in your experience is going to be great while you have fun thinking about what you're going to do when you come to the UK.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
I think this has been a great conversation. I have a comment here actually from Sofia Pires asking, does OK Student actually provide that sort of support? So bank account, doctor. So Sofia, I just want to give you a short answer here and say that we do give this sort of support. So we actually have are working on a partnership with some banks so that we can make that process easier for you guys. Doctors, every university has a doctor's office, and they will make sure that you are actually registered with your doctor when you get to university. That's one of the most important things. So yeah, we do all of that for you, and we make sure that everything's ready so that you can go and just have fun and focus on your studies. So definitely send us an email, Sofia, at info@okstudent.com, or send us your details through okstudent.com/book a meeting. Would you add anything to this answer, Lily?
I think one thing that is useful to mention to American students is that the NHS is wonderful. We do have to pay a surcharge, but it's all free. I've gone to the doctor, of course, in the past 5 years. I've used the NHS. And so that, you know, I think that's something that a lot of Americans, we do have to worry about, because, you know, we don't have free health insurance in our country. But rest assured, you will be taken care of in the UK. And, you know, opening a bank account, it's not, you know, it's an easy process. And obviously we're there to support you along the way. But what Mariana said is right, that the universities, you know, one of the first things they'll do in the first 2 weeks is really help assist all the students register at their local GP. So yeah, these things will all be covered, not to worry.
Exactly. We also have a checklist that we normally give students before they leave to the UK, where all of these things are there so that you can check them off as you go along and do them. So there is one thing I wanted to ask you, Lily. So we're about to finish off, so this might be my last question. What did you take with you when you went to the UK for the first time? What are like the main 5 things that somebody should bring to the UK?
Oh, this is such a good question. I'm going to assume that the main 5 things, I probably missed out all of them because I was not prepared. A raincoat. I mean, these are pretty obvious. A really good raincoat, a nice umbrella. Oh gosh. Oh no, I'm blanking. I mean, I guess to counter this, one thing that I was thinking, I was talking about this before I left, because I just moved back to the US, and I was talking to my friends, and they're like, what are you going to miss once you're home? Like, what kind of things can you do in the US that you wouldn't have been able to do here? And sorry, some dog is crying. And most of what we have here is also in the UK. So, if you'd asked me that for Brazil, I'd have been like, oh gosh, this, and this, because you can't get them. But, a lot of the same foods, a lot of the same, amenities, the same shops, whatnot. There's an overlap. But probably just rain protection is a big one.
It definitely rains more in the UK than the US.
Yes. But yeah.
That's great. I think that American students have everything they need to actually come to the UK and study. It's a really good experience for everyone. I'd really recommend it. We've talked about the benefits here as well of studying in the UK, financial benefits, health benefits, all of this sort of thing. So I think it's a great time for you guys to consider coming over to the UK. So if you want to come study in the UK, have Lily as your fantastic advisor, send us an email at info@okstudent.co.uk or send us your details through okstudent.com/book a meeting. I want to go ahead and thank Sophia for the great question here, and to thank everyone who's been watching us today. Today was a short one, but we'll be back next week with another study in the UK. Ask Us Anything. Lily, thank you so much for joining me. Any final words you want to say here?
You won't regret it. It was the best experience that I've had so far studying in the UK. I have quite a few American friends who would say the same. I really encourage everybody just to send us an email, ask for some more information. We're happy to answer any questions you have. And I look forward to hopefully meeting some new Americans who want to study in the UK.
Yay! Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Lily. Have a great day, guys. Bye.
Thank you.